This is Kanji in Danzanru Jiu-Jitsu. I'm George Arrington. So in this fourth installment of Kanji in Danzanru dealing with the throwing techniques or Nage Te from Danzanru, we're going to look at the last 5 techniques, and in some ways these are the most interesting of the 20 techniques in Danzanru. Techniques 16 through 20. These kanji come from a scroll that was given out by Professor Okazaki to his students when they attained the rank of second black belt. This particular scroll came from Steve Bizek, who received it in 1941. The portion of this scroll that we're interested in is this. This is the Nage techniques, or the throwing techniques from Danzanru, and in particular we're going to look at these 5 techniques. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is Uki Otoshi. So the hiragana for uki is this, uki. And the kanji that's used for uki is this kanji, which means floating, to float. And then otoshi is given by this kanji, which means drop. So sometimes this technique is called floating drop throw, and indeed that's what the kanji show here. Now, one interesting thing about both of these kanji is they contain these 3 tick marks, 3 dots, two small ones and one that's going up into the air, up and to the right. And these, whenever you see this in a kanji, this indicates something about this, which is water. This is the kanji for water, which is mizu or sui, and the shorthand for that are these 3 dots that you see. Now, the kanji with the 3 dots can actually mean something dealing directly with water, such as this kanji, which is umi or ocean, but it can also have something to do with the character of water, such as floating or drop, or in this case, ryu, which is the character for stream. And it also can mean a stream of consciousness or a school of thought or a sect. And in fact, Danzanryu uses this particular character. The next technique is called makikomi. Maki looks like this, and it means to wind up or to coil. And komi, which we have already seen before, means to pull. We saw that in tsuri komi goshi, but it means to pull. So this is oftentimes referred to as the winding pulling throw, and it's done by curling up the person around your body and throwing them down in a variety of different ways. So an interesting thing about the maki kanji, however, let's take a look at that one. I'll print it in a different font here. Notice on this one that the top 2, I'll call them tick marks, on the blue kanji, those tick marks go to the outside, whereas on this one, this is more a handwritten font, they go to the inside. Those top little tick marks that you see there. So sometimes if you're reading a printed character, you may see it like the blue character, and if you're used to seeing it like the black character there on the right, you may be confused and say, you know, what is that character? But indeed, that's the way that it's sometimes written. or sometimes printed in newspapers. Now, another character which essentially means the same thing and is pronounced the same way, maki, is this character. And this is the character which also means to roll up or to wind, but it also refers to a scroll, a volume, or a book. In fact, the counter for book, kai or ke, is this character. Next we see kani sute. The first character is kani, and oftentimes you may see this written as kane, K-A-N-E, and actually that's incorrect. It should be kani, K-A-N-I. Kani is this character and means a crab. And then sute, and often that's pronounced ste. So the su is very short. Ste is this character, which means sacrifice. As a point of interest, when you're practicing falling techniques, that's called stemi, sutemi. And the mi there refers to the body, sacrificing the body. So when you're falling down, you're sacrificing the body. And so that's what stemi means. But let's take a look at something interesting about this word for crab. Notice at the bottom of that character for crab, there's a box with a vertical line through it and then a horizontal line and a tick mark that kind of looks like that. This character is pronounced by itself, is pronounced mushi, M-U-S-H-I, mushi, and it means bug or insect. And so whenever you see that in a character, it might mean something that is an insect-like thing. And in this case, indeed, the crab is an insect-like thing. And by the way, this character here, hasami, is the way that this technique is called in Kodokan Judo. Several videos ago, I mentioned that in Danzanru we call it kani sute, and in Kodokan Judo they call it kani hasami, and this is that character, and it means hasami means scissors. So a crab sacrifice throw or a crab scissor throw, it's basically the same thing. So that's kani sute. Next we see tomoe nage. Tomoe looks like this. This character means comma-shaped. Sometimes this technique is referred to as the circle throw, but that's not exactly correct. It's not a circle. That's a different character. This is a comma-shaped throw. And nage we have seen before. That's the word to throw. Now, tomoe is used oftentimes in this comma-shaped, is often used to denote a shape that you may have seen before, and that's this shape. Each of these, the blue and the white shapes, are considered to be tomoe. So in this case, there are two tomoe. Here the famous yin-yang symbol if you're speaking Chinese, or yin-yo if you're speaking Japanese. So here the yin-yo is this yin-yang shape. But oftentimes you'll see it with three of these comma shapes, as in this, which is called the mitsudomoe, or the three comma shapes. And this is often used, this symbol is often used in a particular karate style. So that's the tomoe, or comma shaped. So finally we come upon, in the last technique in our Danzanru Nage Te, the technique called Yama Arashi. And this technique has an interesting story behind it. First we see Yama. Yama is mountain. And the background, you can probably tell, is the origin of this character came from the mountain peaks, several mountain peaks there. So that's Yama, or mountain. It also sometimes is called sun. For instance, you might hear Fujiyama, or you might hear Fujisan for Mount Fuji in Japan. But that's Yama. Now, Arashi is where we have a little bit of an interesting story. In the 1941 scroll from Steve Bizek that you saw earlier, the character that is used there in that scroll is this character. This is Arashi, and the meaning of this is laid waste. It could mean rough or wild, or something of that nature, but this means laid waste. And on the top of this character, you see two vertical lines with a horizontal line going through it. That is the radical for plants or grass. That's the grass radical. Now here's where things get interesting. There is another Arashi character that looks like this. And this one means storm. And traditionally, those who have studied Danzanru or other martial arts know that Yama Arashi means a mountain storm or mountain avalanche, because that's evidently how devastating the technique is. And in fact, this character makes more sense, because you see the top of this character has an actual mountain on top of it. There's a mountain, and the part below that mountain is the character for wind. So a mountain wind is a storm. Okay, so how do we reconcile this? On the scroll that we have, the character is the first character, meaning laid waste, and then we have this other character for storm. So here's where the story gets interesting. There was a guy by the name of Shiro Saigo, and this is his picture here, and he was one of the famous 10th degree black belts under Jigoro Kano, the founder of Kodokan Judo. And his fame was that he had a technique that could not be beaten, and the name of that technique was, you guessed it, Yama Arashi. In fact, it was so famous that they even put up a statue of him doing a throw. And by the way, the actual way that Shiro Saigo did this technique has been lost in the annals of history. But in fact, several people will say this is how it's done, or this is how it's done, and really no one knows for absolute certainty how the technique was done. But this is a statue in Japan of him doing some throw, and on the carving underneath the statue, the one with 4 characters says Shiro Saigo, and to the right of that it says Yama Arashi. And let's blow that up and look at it. And here it says Yama, and then underneath that it says Arashi. And it should be plain to you that this character Arashi, matches the second Arashi that I listed. Indeed, this one is mountain storm. So it's pretty evident that the technique that Shiro Saigo did was called Yama Arashi with this. So why the difference? That's the question here. And it could be that this was simply a mistake on the scrolls. So, but let's take a look at something that will kind of I think, put that in perspective. So the scroll that was written in, or was awarded in 1941 to Steve Bizek looks like this. It says Yama Arashi, using the first Arashi, which means laid waste. And you can tell that that's the first Arashi because the top part is that grass radical. Now, much later, in 1951, a scroll was issued to a student named Liebert O'Sullivan, and in fact, this scroll was issued to him a mere 12 days after the passing of Professor Okazaki. And what it looks like in its appearance for this particular technique is this. And a couple of things about it. One, this type of the writing on O'Sullivan's scroll is much more free-flowing, and so it's a little bit more difficult to read. But I think it's obvious that the part right here matches the part right above it, Yama, so that is the mountain character. And so at some point between 1941 and 1951, the people who wrote these scrolls realized, oh, wait a minute, we have an incorrect character here, and that is, so they seem to have fixed it there. So yes, indeed, it's my belief that Yama Arashi should be the way that it is shown on the Shiro Saigo monument, and that the earlier ones were simply typos on the earlier scrolls. Now, one interesting thing about the word Arashi is that later on in the Danzanryu curriculum, there is a technique called Arashi Otoshi. And in the 1951 scroll and in all the other previous scrolls, this is what it looks like. And it's very plain to see that the top of this character is indeed the grass radical and not the mountain radical. And in fact, what this technique would say is you lay waste to somebody by dropping them down. So although some people read this as storm drop, that's incorrect. This would be more rough drop or wild drop, or laying waste by dropping the person. And that's exactly how the technique is done. So anyway, that's my conclusion about Yama Arashi is that there are typos on most of the scrolls, and that they were corrected later on. So all of these scrolls that I've been using throughout the video series are shown in my book Mokoroku and Kaiden Sho. I first issued this in 1996, and I've been studying this business of the Kanji and Danzanryu for almost half a century. So I hope you'll get a chance and pick up this book from Amazon or one of the other places. Amazon is usually the best place to get it, and go through it. It's a very dense book. There's a lot of material in there, but I think it'll be worth your while if you're interested in this sort of thing. So hope you'll pick that up. Well, I thank you for watching this series on the Kanji and Danzanryu, specifically the Nage techniques. Keep an eye out for future series of videos on other boards in Danzanryu, and I thank you very much for watching.